Welcome back to Unitalish. We are extremely thankful for your ongoing support. Before we start today's story, let us know which city or country you are tuning in from. We truly enjoy engaging with our worldwide audience. Now, let's get into today's narrative. As Cal approached his childhood home, he froze at the sight of his wife slipping out the back door with their family doctor, but the real shock came when his mother's voice drifted through the window, gloating about their affair. Chapter 1. A Borrowed Wrench and Broken Trust. The Texas heat shimmered above the gravel as Sam Cal Harding's Ford pickup rolled into the driveway of his childhood home. He was in need of a torque wrench for his weekend project, restoring an ancient Chevy that had long been collecting dust in his garage. His father, Trevor Harding, owned an extensive array of tools, accumulated over many decades working as a mechanic. Cal stepped out of his truck, his steel-toed boots crunching on the gravel. At 42, he carried himself with the quiet self-assurance of a man who had constructed his life through diligent effort. His rough, calloused hands, marked by years in construction, held a glass of iced tea he had brought from home. The familiar view of old car parts strewn across the yard evoked memories of assisting his father in the garage. Trevor's commitment to his trade had instilled in Cal the importance of accuracy and perseverance. These principles benefited him greatly in his position as a construction foreman, where he earned respect through self-assurance rather than aggression. "Dad," Cal called out, his voice carrying across the property. There was no reply. Trevor was likely in town picking up supplies, a typical Saturday routine. Cal's marriage to Yvonne Jenny Albright Harding had appeared ideal 5 years earlier. She was a kindergarten teacher whose tender disposition complemented his reserved nature. Recently, however, something had changed. Jenny's warm smiles had turned robotic, and her laughter seemed insincere. She claimed to be putting in extra hours at school, but her justifications felt empty. As he neared the house, movement through the kitchen window caught his attention. A scene unfolded that halted him completely. Jenny slipped out the back door, casting a nervous glance over her shoulder. Behind her emerged Dr. Miguel Ramsey, their longtime family doctor, smoothing his messy hair. For an instant, Cal's mind rejected the implication. Dr. Ramsey had been his physician since childhood, always portraying an image of professional ethics. Now, observing the doctor's predatory stare following his wife, Cal saw through years of carefully constructed pretense. "Jenny, honey." Erica Harding's voice floated through the open window, oozing with spiteful satisfaction. "Was that better than last time? Do you prefer how Miguel touches you over my dull son?" The glass in Cal's hand shattered, fragments cut into his palm, blood mingling with the spilled tea, but he scarcely registered the pain. His mother's words confirmed not only Jenny's infidelity, but a more profound conspiracy that sickened him. The sound of tires on gravel signaled Trevor's return. Cal watched his father's truck arrive, the older man waving happily, unaware of his son's world collapsing just feet away. "Cal, didn't expect to see you today," Trevor called out, exiting his truck with the agility of a much younger man. "Hey, Dad." Cal's voice remained even despite the turmoil within. "Just stopped by for that torque wrench, but I recalled I have another appointment. Everything all right?" Trevor's gaze shifted to Cal's bleeding hand. "Yeah, just dropped my glass. I'll clean it up. Don't fret about it, son. Sure you won't stay for lunch? Your mother's inside." "No," Cal interrupted, perhaps too abruptly. "Thanks, Dad. I'll catch up with you later." Back in his truck, Cal gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles whitened. The vision of Jenny with Miguel replayed in his mind, accompanied by his mother's poisonous remarks. He had always been aware that Erica preferred his brother Franklin, but this betrayal went beyond simple favoritism. Cal drove home silently, his thoughts already devising strategies. He was not a man who acted rashly. His strength was in meticulous planning and exact implementation. They would answer for their disloyalty, all of them, but not in a burst of anger. He would proceed deliberately, allow them to feel safe, and then methodically dismantle their lives, step by step. Hours later, in his garage, Cal systematically cleaned and bandaged his hand. The physical discomfort helped sharpen his concentration. He took out his phone and scrolled through contacts, old friends who owed him, individuals with useful talents and adaptable ethics. The roots of retaliation were already forming. That night, when Jenny returned late yet again with another excuse about parent-teacher conferences, Cal performed his part flawlessly. He acknowledged her explanation, inquired about her day, and even produced a believable smile. Internally, however, his heart had turned to steel, and with every falsehood she uttered, his determination grew. "You must be exhausted," he said, observing her feigned worry over his bandaged hand. "Why not get some rest?" Ginny kissed his cheek, a gesture that made his skin prickle. "You're always so understanding, Cal. I don't deserve you." "No," he murmured quietly as she exited the room. "You don't." In the quiet of his garage, surrounded by tools and incomplete projects, Cal began his work. He would require proof, supporters, and impeccable timing. The yearly family reunion was approaching, an ideal setting for the initial phase of his retribution. But first, he needed to comprehend the full extent of the deception that had been developing right under his nose. Chapter 2. Ghosts of the Past. Cal devoted the next several days to observation, information gathering, and reflection. His childhood recollections took on fresh significance as he assembled the pattern of manipulation that had influenced his life. Growing up as the second son of Trevor and Erica Harding had been a continuous lesson in perceived insufficiency. Trevor, despite limited resources, had been a steady source of strength. He demonstrated the worth of hard work and honesty through deeds rather than talk. The garage had been their refuge, where father and son communicated through the mechanics of engines and tools. "Remember, son," Trevor would say, guiding Cal's youthful hands through the complex parts of an engine. "Anything worth doing is worth doing correctly the first time." Erica, however, had been a completely different matter. Her critiques wounded more deeply than any physical injury, constantly measuring Cal against his older brother, Franklin. While Franklin attended law school with their mother's full backing, Cal's choice to enter construction was met with persistent disapproval. Another day playing in the dirt and rocks. Erica would mock when Cal came home covered in construction dust. "While your brother pleads cases in court, you're still digging ditches." Only his grandfather, old Colin Harding, had genuinely comprehended Cal. The elder's insight still resonated in his mind. "Some people confuse kindness for weakness, boy. Let them. The day they learn otherwise will be too late for them." Cal pulled into the parking lot of Sadie's diner, where he had arranged to meet Marcus, Mike, Sadie, his high school friend. The diner held recollections of numerous late-night talks, celebrations of minor triumphs, and comfort after setbacks. Mike was seated in their usual booth, his once athletic build now softened by years at a desk, but his eyes still sharp with intelligence as Cal approached. "You look terrible," Mike noted, sliding a coffee across the table. "I need to know what people have been saying about Ginny and Dr. Ramsey," Cal stated without introduction. Mike's expression altered subtly. "You heard something?" "I saw something. Now I need to know everything." Mike leaned back, his face concerned. "There have been whispers, nothing definite. But people talk, particularly when a doctor begins making house calls to a healthy woman." Cal's hand tightened around his coffee cup. "How long?" "Can't say for certain. The first murmurs began maybe 6 months back. I didn't mention it because I assumed it was just gossip." "I get it," Cal finished, "but now I need facts, not rumors." The discussion moved to evaluating the resources available to them. Mike had contacts all over town, people who owed him favors or debts. More importantly, he had no ethical reservations about employing those connections. "Whatever you require, Cal," he said. "You assisted me when I was sinking in gambling debts. Just say the word." Cal nodded, already arranging his next step. "I'll be in touch." And Mike, this discussion never occurred. His next destination was Audrey Lena Davis's compact law office on the town's outskirts. The legal assistant had held a grudge against Erica Harding since high school, when Cal's mother had circulated malicious rumors about Lena's family. Lena's office mirrored her character, orderly, efficient, and straightforward. She glanced up from her computer as Cal entered, her expression softening in recognition. "Cal Harding. It's been a while. Recall when I helped you with that boyfriend issue in high school?" Cal asked, taking a seat across from her desk. Lena's hand unconsciously brushed her left arm, where bruises had once been. "I remember. What do you need?" "Information, legal precedents, and possibly some inventive interpretations of certain laws." The next hour was spent reviewing divorce regulations, evidence standards, and the complexities of medical malpractice lawsuits. Lena's knowledge would be vital for Cal's intentions. This won't be inexpensive, she cautioned, and it won't be tidy. I don't want inexpensive or tidy, Cal responded. I want comprehensive and permanent. His final stop of the day was Ronnie, Edmund Baker's electronics shop. The former mechanic had converted his technical abilities into a successful business specializing in surveillance gear. Edmund's messy workshop smelled of solder and coffee. Circuit boards and partly disassembled devices covered every surface. Edmund was bent over a workbench, magnifying goggles enlarging his eyes. I need something special, Cal declared. Something untraceable. Edmund straightened up, removing his goggles. This is about Jenny? Cal's expression must have answered the question, because Edmund immediately raised his hands. Don't tell me. The less I know, the better. But whatever you need, it's yours. You saved my business when the bank was about to take everything. They spent the next few hours going over technical details for surveillance equipment that would serve Cal's needs. Edmund's skill would guarantee that, when the moment arrived, there would be no uncertainty about what had occurred. As Cal drove home that evening, his mind inventoried the day's advancements. The components were aligning: Mike's connections, Lena's legal expertise, and Edmund's technical abilities. Combined with his own patience and strategizing, they created a powerful arsenal. Jenny was home when he arrived, correcting papers at the kitchen table. She smiled up at him, and Cal admired her capacity to sustain the appearance of normality. Busy day? She inquired. Just handling some old business, Cal replied, his tone carefully neutral. Sometimes the past circles back. Jenny's smile wavered slightly, but she quickly regained composure. Well, I'm glad you're home. I thought we might have dinner together tonight. Of course, Cal agreed. Watching her return to her grading, he thought, let her believe everything was fine. Let them all assume he was the same dependable, steady Cal Harding. The time for disclosures would arrive soon enough. Chapter 3. The gathering storm. As the annual Harding family reunion drew near, Cal escalated his preparations. Each day brought new discoveries about the scope of the betrayal he had uncovered, and each finding fortified his resolve. In Edmund's workshop, they completed the details of the surveillance equipment. The cameras were marvels of miniaturization, able to capture high-definition video while staying nearly invisible. These are the prototypes, Edmund clarified, showing the wireless connectivity. Signal transmits to this receiver here. Range is about 100 yards, but storage is internal. Multiple backups, as you requested. Cal inspected one of the tiny devices. Battery life? 72 hours of continuous recording, but they'll last weeks on motion activation. Edmund paused, then added, Cal, once these are installed, there's no reversing this. You understand that, right? Reversing ceased to be an option the instant I saw them together, Cal answered, carefully placing the cameras into a cushioned case. Lena's office had turned into a secondary command center. Her walls were covered with sticky notes outlining legal tactics and possible approaches. Your mother's involvement alters everything, Lena stated, marking sections in a hefty legal document. It establishes a trend of malicious interference in your marriage. Combined with the medical ethics breaches we can verify against Dr. Ramsey, I want them destroyed, Cal stated bluntly. Not merely inconvenienced or shamed. Lena nodded, her expression serious. We'll begin professionally, medical board for him, teaching credentials for her. Then we target assets. Your mother's interference provides leverage for punitive damages. Mike proved just as useful, utilizing his connections to collect intelligence about Miguel Ramsey's other possible indiscretions. He has a pattern, Mike reported during one of their secret meetings. You're not the first husband whose wife he's shown interest in, just the first clever enough to catch him. Names? Cal asked. Better than that. I have dates, locations, and witnesses willing to talk for the proper incentive. Cal wrote a check without delay. Make it occur. I want everything recorded and confirmed. The reunion would be held at his parents' house, offering Cal the perfect chance to initiate his plan. He spent hours learning the layout, planning camera positions, and orchestrating every aspect of what would happen. Jenny remained unaware of his preparations, continuing her pattern of late nights and transparent excuses. Cal played along, refining his performance as the considerate husband. The reunion is coming up, she mentioned one evening. Your mother called to confirm we're both attending. Wouldn't miss it, Cal assured her, noting how she avoided eye contact. Family tradition, after all. Edmund assisted him with a final test of the equipment. The night before the reunion, they sat in Cal's truck watching video feeds on a tablet. Signals are clear, Edmund confirmed. Audio is capturing everything within 20 feet of each unit. You certain about this timing? Cal nodded, his expression unchanged. The reunion provides everything I need. Witnesses, opportunity, and the perfect platform. They believe they're so clever, hiding behind respectability and family ties. Tomorrow, I'll show them how mistaken they are. That night, as Ginny slept beside him, Cal reviewed his mental checklist one last time. The cameras were prepared, the evidence was ready, his allies were positioned. Years of construction work had taught him the value of solid foundations, and he had built this plan on bedrock. Tomorrow, the annual Harding family reunion would become the stage for a revelation that would smash the carefully maintained appearances of respectability and honor. Cal would expose not only the affair between his wife and Dr. Ramsey, but also his mother's part in planning his humiliation. They had underestimated him, dismissed him as the simple, hard-working son who would never see through their deceit. That error would cost them everything they cherished: reputation, career, relationships, all systematically taken apart according to his design. As dawn approached, Cal rose and dressed quietly. He had one more stop before the reunion started. In his garage, he unlocked a toolbox and removed a small package. Insurance against any last-minute complications. Time to give them what they deserve, he muttered, placing the package in his truck. The first rays of sunlight broke over the horizon as he pulled out of his driveway, heading toward a day that would change everything. The quiet, unassuming construction foreman was gone. In his place stood a man forged in betrayal, tempered by rage, and focused on a single purpose. Revenge served not in the heat of passion, but with the cold of an executioner's blade. Chapter 4. The Reunion's Bloodbath. The Harding family reunion transformed Trevor and Erica's backyard into a stage for Cal's calculated revenge. Smoke from the grill drifted through the air as relatives mingled, their laughter and conversation masking the tension brewing beneath the surface. Cal arrived deliberately late, wearing a plain t-shirt and jeans. His muscular frame, honed by years of construction work, moved with controlled purpose as he surveyed the gathering. Erica's greeting dripped with contempt. "Nice of you to finally join us," she sneered, adjusting her expensive blouse. "Traffic," Cal replied flatly, his face betraying nothing of the rage simmering beneath his composed exterior. Franklin approached, his designer suit out of place at the casual gathering. "Little brother," he said, clapping Cal on the back. "Surprised you could tear yourself away from the construction site." "Wouldn't miss it," Cal responded, his voice neutral but his eyes hard as steel. Ginny's arrival minutes later sent a ripple through the crowd. She wore a sundress and her practiced smile, but it faltered momentarily upon seeing Cal. Recovering quickly, she approached him with open arms. "Cal, honey, I didn't know if you'd make it." He stood motionless as she hugged him, her touch like ice against his skin. Behind her, Miguel Ramsey made his entrance, maintaining his professional demeanor despite the flash of unease in his eyes. "Cal," Miguel nodded, extending his hand. "How's that shoulder healing up?" Cal shook the offered hand, his grip perhaps a fraction too tight. "Never better, Doc." Throughout the afternoon, Cal played his role perfectly. He laughed at his uncle's jokes, discussed football with his cousins, and helped his father tend the grill, all while Edmund, Lena, and Mike circulated among the guests, carefully maintaining their distance from Cal while monitoring Ginny and Miguel's interactions. "Your mother outdid herself with the decorations," Ginny commented, trying to draw Cal into conversation. "She always does," Cal replied, his attention seemingly focused on his plate of food. As the day progressed, Cal implemented his plan. During a boisterous game of horseshoes, he placed Edmund's cameras at strategic points around the property. Each tiny device disappeared into the background, ready to capture evidence of the betrayal that had festered within his family. The sun began its descent as Cal excused himself from a conversation with Trevor and Franklin. "Need to use the bathroom," he explained. Heading toward the house, in the relative quiet of the empty kitchen, Cal pulled out the monitoring device. The screen flickered to life, displaying feeds from each camera. He began scrolling through the footage, his jaw tightening as the evidence accumulated. Erica's voice came through crystal clear. "Ginny, darling, you're handling this perfectly." Cal suspects nothing. Another clip revealed Miguel and Erica in the garage. Once this is over, I'll make sure Cal signs the divorce papers. Jenny will be free, and you'll both have what you want. Cal's fingers tightened around the device as more conversations played out. The betrayal ran deeper than even he had suspected, with Erica orchestrating each detail of his humiliation. Returning to the party, Cal observed the gathered family members. They clustered around the bonfire, drinks in hand, unaware of the explosion about to tear their comfortable world apart. "Everyone," Cal called out, his voice carrying across the yard. "I'd like to share something." He connected his device to the outdoor television screen, the action drawing curious looks from the assembled relatives. With a click of the remote, the footage began to play. The reaction was immediate. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd as intimate conversations and secret meetings played out on the screen. Jenny's face drained of color, while Miguel's contorted with trapped fury. "Turn that off," Erica shrieked, lunging for the controls. Cal blocked her path effortlessly. "No, Mother. Everyone needs to see this." Franklin tried to intervene, reaching for the power cord. "Cal, you're making a scene." The scene was already made. Cal cut him off. "I'm just providing the evidence." The footage continued relentlessly. Erica's machinations, Miguel's predatory behavior, Jenny's willing participation, all laid bare before the stunned family gathering. Trevor stood frozen, his expression crumbling as he watched his wife's true nature revealed. "You bastard," Erica spat. "You think this changes anything?" "It changes everything," Cal replied, his voice steady. "Just like you wanted to change my life." "How does it feel, Mother?" The party devolved into chaos. Accusations flew as family members took sides. Some rushed to comfort Trevor, while others turned on Erica with years of pent-up grievances. Jenny tried to flee but found herself cornered by her disgusted aunts. Through it all, Cal stood unmoved, watching the destruction he had orchestrated. Miguel attempted to maintain his professional facade, but it cracked under the weight of murmured accusations and pointing fingers. "Cal." Trevor approached his son, his voice breaking. "Tell me this isn't real." "I wish I could, Dad," Cal responded, placing a hand on his father's shoulder. "But you deserve to know the truth." As the son disappeared completely, the reunion lay in shambles. Family members departed in angry clusters, while others stayed to demand explanations. Cal observed it all with cold satisfaction, knowing this was only the beginning of his revenge. Jenny made one last attempt to approach him before leaving. "Cal, please, let me explain." "Save it," he cut her off. "You'll need your excuses for someone who still believes them." The aftermath of the reunion would ripple through their community like a stone thrown into still water. Cal had lit the fuse. Now he would watch the explosion tear apart the lives of those who had betrayed him. Chapter 5: The Domino Effect. The days following the reunion unleashed a tsunami of consequences that swept through their small community. Cal watched from his office at the construction site as his carefully laid plans bore fruit. Jenny's father, Judge Rick Albright, stormed into his daughter's classroom Monday morning. Students scattered as his voice boomed through the hallway. "How dare you," he thundered. "Do you have any idea what you've done to this family's reputation?" Jenny's attempts at explanation fell flat. "Daddy, please, I can explain." "Explain?" The judge's face purpled with rage. "I've spent 30 years building respect in this community. Now I'm a laughingstock because my daughter couldn't keep her marriage vows." The scene ended with Jenny's dismissal from her teaching position and her father's final judgment. "Don't come home. You're no longer welcome there." Her mother, Alicia Albright, took a different approach. Over lunch at the country club, she tried to minimize the damage. "Really, darling," she said into her phone, "these things happen in the best families." If Cal had been more attentive, the judge's voice cut through the speaker. "Don't you dare blame Cal for this. He's not the one who destroyed our family's name." Cal received updates about these developments from Mike, who had positioned his men strategically throughout town. Each report confirmed that his revenge was proceeding exactly as planned. Miguel Ramsey's downfall proved even more spectacular. His wife Sophia didn't waste time with private confrontations. She went straight to the state medical board. "I want a full investigation," she demanded, slamming a folder of evidence on the board director's desk, "and I want his license." The evidence Cal had provided proved devastating. Not only had Miguel violated doctor-patient confidentiality and professional ethics, but patterns of similar behavior emerged with other patients' wives. Sophia, standing in her law office, dictated terms to her divorce attorney. "Take everything," she instructed. "The house, the cars, his investments. I want him destroyed professionally and financially." The attorney raised an eyebrow. "This could get messy." "Good," Sophia replied, her smile sharp as a blade. "He deserves messy." Erica's carefully constructed social position crumbled like a house of cards. Trevor, finally seeing the full extent of his wife's manipulation, filed for divorce the morning after the reunion. "I want her out of the house," he told his lawyer, his weathered hands shaking slightly. "I don't care about the money. I just want her gone." Cal ensured the divorce proceedings favored his father. Lena's legal expertise proved invaluable as she uncovered years of financial manipulation and hidden accounts. "Your mother's been planning her escape for years," Lena informed Cal, spreading documents across her desk. "But we found everything. She won't keep a dime she didn't earn." Franklin, always protective of his own interests, distanced himself immediately. His law firm couldn't risk association with the scandal. "I'm sorry, Mother," he said during a brief phone call, "but I have to think of my career. Don't contact me again." The dominoes continued to fall. Jenny, unable to secure another teaching position, found her credit cards canceled and her accounts frozen. Miguel's patients abandoned his practice in droves, and his professional reputation lay in tatters. Cal monitored it all from a distance, but he wasn't finished. Meeting with Lena in her office, he laid out the next phase of his plan. "I want legal action against both of them," he stated. "Every possible angle." Lena nodded, pulling out a thick file. "I've already drafted the papers. We can hit them with multiple suits: alienation of affection, professional misconduct, emotional distress. They won't be able to defend against all of them." Meanwhile, Edmund had installed tracking devices on both Jenny and Miguel's vehicles. "The range is unlimited," he explained to Cal. "They can't go anywhere without us knowing." Mike's role expanded as well. His men kept constant surveillance, ensuring that neither Jenny nor Miguel could rebuild their lives in secret. "They tried meeting at a motel outside town," Mike reported. "My guys made sure the management knew exactly who they were dealing with. Place turned them away." Cal absorbed each report with cold satisfaction, but he wasn't satisfied with mere financial and social destruction. His revenge needed to cut deeper, to wound them as fundamentally as they had wounded him. "Keep watching," he instructed Mike. "I want to know everything. Where they go, who they talk to, what they're planning. They don't take a breath without us knowing about it." The machinery of revenge ground forward relentlessly. Each day brought new developments, new opportunities to tighten the screws. Cal's reputation actually improved in certain circles. People admired how he'd exposed the corruption rather than suffering in silence. Jenny made one attempt to appeal to him directly, waiting outside his office one evening. "Cal, please," she begged. "I'm sleeping in my car. I have nothing left." He regarded her without expression. "You have exactly what you earned. I made a mistake." "No," he cut her off. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. You chose to destroy our marriage. Now you can live with that choice." As he drove home that night, Cal reflected on the progress of his revenge. The legal system, social pressure, and financial ruin were effective weapons, but he needed more. The next phase would target their vulnerabilities more directly, make them feel the kind of pain they'd inflicted on him. He pulled out his phone and dialed Mike. "Get everyone together. Time to plan the next stage." The real pain was just beginning. Chapter 6: A Ruthless Bargain. Cal's office at the construction site became the command center for the next phase of his revenge. The legal and financial destruction of his enemies provided satisfaction, but he craved something more visceral. Mike sat across the desk, his expression grim, as Cal outlined his plans. "I need men who can follow instructions precisely," Cal explained. "No physical harm, but I want them terrified." "I've got just the guys," Mike nodded. "Former military. They know how to make an impression without leaving marks." The campaign began that night. Miguel, leaving his temporary clinic office, found 3 men waiting in the parking lot. They never touched him, but their presence and quiet words left him shaking. "The boss wants you to know he's watching," one man whispered. "Always watching." Similar scenes played out wherever Miguel went: at restaurants, the grocery store, his new apartment. Cal's men appeared like ghosts, delivering their messages before vanishing. Jenny's torment took a different form. Each morning brought new evidence of her betrayal. Photos, videos, transcripts of conversations. Cal made sure each delivery included a personal message. Remember this day? One note read beneath a photo of Jen and Miguel together. I do. It was our anniversary. The psychological warfare escalated. Cal's men followed Miguel to his new job at a walk-in clinic. Nice place, one commented, examining a medical diploma on the wall. Shame if someone told them about your history. Miguel's hands shook as he tried to treat patients. You can't do this, he protested weakly. We're just talking, Doc, came the reply. Like you used to talk to Mrs. Harding. Cal's alliance with Sophia Ramsey proved particularly fruitful. She visited his office one afternoon, elegant in her designer suit. I found something interesting, she announced, placing a file on his desk. Miguel wasn't just sleeping with your wife. He had his eyes on my sister too. Cal leaned forward. You can prove this? Better, Sophia smiled coldly. I can use it. The medical board takes a very dim view of patterns of predatory behavior. Their partnership flourished, each feeding the other's desire for retribution. Sophia's legal expertise, combined with Cal's resources, created a devastating force. I want him broken, she declared during one meeting. Not just professionally. I want him to feel helpless. That can be arranged, Cal assured her. My men are very good at creating that feeling. The surveillance net tightened. Edmund's tracking devices provided constant updates on their targets' movements. Cal could monitor them through his phone, watching their desperate attempts to rebuild their lives crumble in real time. Jenny tried applying for a job at a private school in the next county, Edmund reported. Anonymous email took care of that. Mike's men maintained their silent pressure. They never broke laws, never crossed lines that could cause legal problems, but their constant presence wore down their target's nerves. One of Mike's men described Miguel's deterioration. He jumps at shadows now, boss. Keeps looking over his shoulder. Yesterday, he dropped a whole tray of instruments when we walked past his clinic. Jenny's isolation deepened. Cal made sure her former friends received evidence of her other betrayals. Not just her affair with Miguel, but smaller deceits and manipulations she'd practiced over the years. Did you know she was laughing about your miscarriage? One anonymous message asked a former friend. We have a recording. Cal monitored the results through his network of informants. Jenny's social circle imploded as years of hidden cruelties came to light. The campaign consumed Cal's thoughts, driving him to refine and escalate his methods. Each morning brought new opportunities for psychological warfare, new ways to tighten the screws. You're enjoying this, Lino observed during one of their meetings. They deserved it. Cal responded simply. His vengeance evolved into an art form, a meticulously arranged symphony of pressure and dread. He conducted each movement with precision, building toward a crescendo of total annihilation. The final component clicked into place when Sophia uncovered Miguel's plan to escape the country. He booked a flight to Mexico, she reported. Next Tuesday. Cal smiled for the first time in days. Perfect. Have Mike's men pick him up. I know just the place for him. The secluded house Cal owned would suit his needs perfectly. There, he would force his enemies to confront the outcomes of their actions. Make sure they're both there, he instructed Mike. It's time they understood exactly what they've lost. His course was fixed. The legal penalties, the social downfall, the financial collapse, all of it had been the prelude. Now came the true reckoning, the instant when they would fully grasp the cost of betrayal. Cal stood at his office window, observing his construction crews below. He had built his company from scratch, knowing that solid foundations were crucial. Now he would demonstrate to Jenny and Miguel that he applied the same principle to revenge. The game was not over. It was only entering its final, most ruthless phase. Chapter 7. The Price of Betrayal. Cal sat at his desk in the construction company office, reviewing the most recent updates from his network of informants. The legal attack on Jenny and Miguel's lives had started in earnest, with Lena spearheading the effort. The asset freeze is complete, Lena announced, spreading documents across his desk. Neither of them can access a cent without us knowing. Cal nodded, his expression stern. What about Miguel's new clinic? Already handled. I spoke to Commissioner Matthews at the City Council. The licensing application has been indefinitely delayed. Lena's smile was cold. Turns out there were numerous code violations in the building. Strange how those appeared overnight. The next stage involved making sure Miguel and Jenny became unemployable in their chosen fields. Cal composed the anonymous emails himself, attaching carefully selected photos and documentation to the school board superintendent regarding the conduct of Yvonne Harding, and to the medical board concerning ethical violations by Dr. Miguel Ramsey. The replies arrived quickly. Jenny's teaching license was suspended pending investigation. Miguel's medical practice collapsed as patients canceled appointments in large numbers. Mike's surveillance operation provided regular reports on their targets' worsening conditions. His men maintained a constant, threatening presence without ever crossing legal boundaries. Miguel tried opening a small clinic in the next county, Mike reported. My boys paid him a visit. Just stood there watching. He closed up shop within an hour. And Jenny? Cal asked, living out of her Honda Civic. Tried staying at a motel, but the manager asked her to leave after receiving some anonymous complaints. Edmund's tracking devices proved extremely useful, enabling Cal to monitor their movements in real time. A tablet on his desk showed 2 blinking dots, Jenny and Miguel's current locations. They're getting desperate, Edmund observed, pointing to the erratic movement patterns. Miguel's been driving in circles for hours. Jenny hasn't moved from that parking lot since morning. Cal's revenge reached beyond the main targets. Erica's carefully built social facade crumbled when evidence of her past indiscretion surfaced. Your mother had quite the secret life, Lena remarked, holding up a thick file. The affair with her tennis instructor was just the start. Wait until Trevor's lawyer sees this. The ruin of his enemies proceeded like a well-orchestrated symphony. Each new disclosure, each financial hit, each social disgrace built upon the previous one. Jenny made one frantic effort to save her career, applying for a teaching position 2 counties over. Please, she begged the principal during her interview. I just need a chance. The principal's phone buzzed with an anonymous email. Her face hardened as she read it. I'm sorry, Mrs. Harding. We'll be pursuing other candidates. Miguel's professional reputation, established over decades, vanished in days. His attempt to maintain a private practice failed as Cal's influence spread through the medical community. Nobody will take appointments with me, Miguel confided to his lawyer. It's like I'm poison. Perhaps, his lawyer suggested, it's time to consider a career change. Cal monitored these developments with icy satisfaction. But mere financial and professional destruction was insufficient. He wanted them to feel the same gut-wrenching betrayal he had endured. A meeting with Sophia Ramsey offered new ammunition. Miguel wasn't just sleeping with your wife, she revealed. He had his eyes on my sister too. Classic predator pattern. You can prove this? Cal asked. Sophia's smile was sharp. Better. I can use it to destroy what's left of his medical career. The board takes a very dim view of serial predators. The legal machinery advanced relentlessly. Lena filed motion after motion, ensuring neither Jenny nor Miguel could evade the consequences of their actions. They tried accessing their retirement accounts, Lena reported. We blocked it. They're running out of options. Cal's construction company flourished amid his enemy's ruin. He channeled his fury into expansion, securing new contracts and hiring more crews. The Rhonda Street project is ahead of schedule, his foreman reported, and under budget. Good, Cal replied. We're building something here, something that'll last. Each morning brought fresh opportunities for revenge. Cal coordinated his allies' efforts, ensuring maximum impact. Keep the pressure on, he instructed Mike. I want them looking over their shoulders constantly. Mike's men excelled at psychological warfare. They never laid a hand on Miguel or Jenny, but their presence became a constant source of terror. Dr. Ramsey, one would whisper as Miguel hurried to his car. Beautiful night for a drive, isn't it? Jenny found photos of herself and Miguel slipped under her car's windshield wipers, each with a handwritten note detailing her betrayals. Cal watched through his network as their lives fell apart. He felt no pity, only growing satisfaction as justice took its course. You've destroyed them professionally, Lena observed during one meeting. What's next? Cal's expression stayed unchanged. Now we make it personal. The next phase would target their deepest vulnerabilities, stripping away their last illusions of safety. Cal had only started to show them the true meaning of revenge. Chapter 8, The Twisted Lullaby. Cal gathered his inner circle, Edmund, Mike, and Lena, in his office after hours. The time had come to intensify their campaign of revenge. We've hurt their careers, their reputations, their bank accounts, Cal said, his voice steady. Now we go deeper. I want them to feel what I felt. Edmund placed a small device on the desk. I've accessed Jenny's phone. Full access to calls, texts, emails, everything. Show me, Cal commanded. The evidence depicted desperation. Jenny's messages to former friends went unanswered. Her attempts to explain her actions met with silence or hostility. To Maya, please, I need somewhere to stay. Response, don't contact me again. To her mother, Mom, I'm sleeping in my car. Response, you made your choices. Cal used this information strategically, exposing Jenny's private conversations to carefully selected recipients. Each revelation drove another nail into the coffin of her social life. Did you know what she really thought about you? An anonymous text would ask. Here's what she told Miguel. Mike's surveillance team reported increasing signs of mental strain in their targets. Miguel jumped at shadows, while Jenny spent hours sitting in parking lots, staring into space. He tried buying sleeping pills, Mike reported. The pharmacist refused to fill the prescription after receiving an anonymous tip. She hasn't eaten in 2 days, another observer noted. Just sits there crying. Cal absorbed these reports without emotion. Good. Let them feel helpless, like I did. The next phase involved Sophia Ramsey's legal expertise. She filed complaints with medical boards in 3 states, ensuring Miguel could never practice again. The evidence is overwhelming, Sophia told Cal. Pattern of predatory behavior, abuse of doctor-patient relationships, ethical violations. He's finished. Cal decided it was time to confront Jenny directly. He sent a message to her phone. Come to the house. 1 hour. Jenny arrived looking haunted, her designer clothes wrinkled from sleeping in her car. Cal let her in without speaking. Cal, she whispered, taking in the altered interior. What happened to our home? My home, he corrected. Everything here was a lie, wasn't it? No, I really did. Love, he cut her off. You thought I was an idiot who wouldn't notice, who wouldn't find out. Please, just let me explain. Explain what? How you and Miguel laughed at me. How my mother helped you destroy my life. Cal's men appeared silently, escorting Jenny to the basement. The room was prepared, comfortable but secure, with a large screen on one wall. You'll stay here for a while, Cal informed her. Watch some home movies. The videos played continuously, Jenny and Miguel together, Erica's scheming, the destruction of their lives. Jenny's pleas turned to sobs, then to silence. Meanwhile, Miguel's attempt to flee the country triggered the next phase. Mike's team intercepted him at the airport. Going somewhere, Doc? Mike asked pleasantly. The boss wants to talk. They brought him to Cal's remote property, a house far from prying eyes. Miguel's professional composure had shattered completely. What do you want from me? He demanded, voice shaking. Cal smiled. I want you to understand consequences. The reunion Cal arranged was carefully staged. Jenny, released from the basement but broken, arrived first. Miguel, escorted by Mike's men, followed. Look at you both, Cal observed. The respected doctor, the beloved teacher. Now what are you? You've made your point, Miguel tried. We're ruined. Isn't that enough? Enough. Cal's voice stayed conversational. Was it enough when you took my wife? When my mother helped you destroy my life? He had them secured together, forced to face each other as recordings of their betrayal played endlessly. This is what conspiracy looks like, Cal told them. This is what betrayal feels like. Hours passed. Jenny's makeup was streaked with tears, Miguel's expensive suit soaked with sweat. Please, Jenny begged, we'll leave town. Never come back. Like you left my father's house that day? Cal asked, sneaking out the back door. The lesson continued until Cal was satisfied they understood the depth of their mistake. Then he released them, knowing they would live in fear of his next move. Remember this, he said as they fled. Remember what happens to people who betray me. Chapter 9. The serpent sheds its skin. The final phase of Cal's revenge unfolded like a perfect storm. Jenny and Miguel were free physically but imprisoned by fear and shame. They would spend their lives looking over their shoulders, wondering when the next blow would fall. Cal sold his old house, erasing the last traces of his former life. The new property he purchased reflected his transformed identity, stark, imposing, secure. His construction company thrived. Cal channeled his newfound ruthlessness into business deals, expanding aggressively. The Thompson contract is signed, his project manager reported. Biggest deal yet. Good, Cal nodded. We're building an empire here. Trevor visited the new house, still struggling to comprehend his son's transformation. "You've changed, son," he observed. "Had to change, Dad. World's not what we thought it was. Your mother isn't your problem anymore." Cal cut him off. "You're better off without her poison." The lesson hadn't been lost on others. Cal's reputation grew. People treated him with new respect, tinged with fear. His inner circle remained loyal. Edmund's technical skills, Mike's muscle, and Lena's legal expertise had proven invaluable. "Whatever you need, boss," Mike assured him. "We got your back." Lena reviewed their handiwork with professional pride. "They'll never recover from this. Not professionally, not socially, not financially." "Good," Cal replied. "Actions have consequences." He kept tabs on his victims through his network. Ginny had left town, drifting between cheap motels. Miguel had abandoned his medical career, working manual labor under an assumed name. Erica's attempt at reconciliation met with cold rejection. "Cal, please," she begged through his locked gate. "I'm your mother. My mother died the day she helped destroy my marriage," he replied through the intercom. "Leave before I call security." The man who had walked into his father's house that summer day was gone. In his place stood someone stronger, colder, more calculated. His new house contained no photos of his past life. The walls held architectural drawings instead, plans for future projects, expansion, growth. "You're going to rebuild?" Trevor asked during one visit. "Already have," Cal replied. "Just not what you mean." The construction company's success brought new opportunities, new contracts, new power. Cal wielded his influence like a weapon, ensuring his enemies could never rise from the ashes of their old lives. Ginny's final letter arrived unopened, returned to Cinder, stamped in red. Miguel's medical license revocation became permanent, his appeals denied by boards in all 50 states. Erica's social circle evaporated as Cal's influence spread through the community. "Funny thing about revenge," Cal told his inner circle. "It builds something new while destroying the old." The transformation was complete. Cal Harding, the trusting husband, the dutiful son, had shed his skin. The man who emerged was harder, sharper, more dangerous. His father asked once if he regretted his actions. Cal considered the question. "I regret not seeing it sooner. But what I did? No, never." The lesson was written in the ruins of 3 lives. Betrayal carried consequences. Cal had become someone who could enforce those consequences without mercy. "The game's changed," he told his team. "We're playing by new rules." Now the construction empire grew. Cal's reputation spread. People learned to fear his anger and value his loyalty. The servant had become the master. The victim had become the victor. The betrayed had become the betrayer. Cal Harding stood in his new office, looking out over the city he was helping to build. The past was dead, but its lessons lived on in the man he had become. The serpent had shed its skin, emerged stronger, more deadly, and the world would remember the price of betrayal. Epilogue. 10 years later, the Harding Construction Group headquarters dominated the Houston skyline. Its glass and steel structure was a testament to Cal Harding's transformation from small-town contractor to construction mogul. Inside his top-floor office, Cal reviewed the latest acquisition reports. His hair now showed gray at the temples, but his eyes remained sharp as razor wire. "The Martinez Group accepted our terms," his assistant reported. "That makes 3 major competitors absorbed this quarter." Cal nodded, satisfied. The past decade had seen him build an empire on the foundations of his revenge. The lessons learned during that summer of betrayal had shaped his business philosophy. Trust few, verify everything, and never show mercy to enemies. Mike Sadie, now head of security for the Harding Group, entered with his daily briefing. The years had added weight to his frame, but his loyalty to Cal remained unwavering. "Got the latest surveillance reports," Mike said, placing a tablet on Cal's desk. "Thought you'd want to see them yourself." Cal scanned the updates on his former enemies. He maintained surveillance over them, not from lingering anger, but as a reminder and a warning to others. Ginny had ended up in Arizona, working as a waitress under an assumed name. Her attempts to return to teaching had failed. Cal's influence reached far beyond Texas. She lived alone in a small apartment, her dreams of family and success reduced to mere survival. She tried applying for another teaching position last month, Mike reported, but the usual anonymous tip took care of that. Miguel Ramsey's fall had been even more spectacular. After losing his medical license, He drifted between menial jobs, eventually settling into work as a night janitor at a small clinic in New Mexico. The irony wasn't lost on Cal. The once respected doctor now cleaned floors in a medical facility. His last appeal to the medical board was denied, Mike added. Sophia's evidence made sure of that. Erica lived in a small retirement community in Florida, isolated and forgotten. Her attempts to rebuild her social connections had failed repeatedly. Cal's network ensured she remained an outcast, marked by her past betrayals. She sent another letter, Mike mentioned, same as usual, begging for forgiveness, asking to see you. Cal dropped the unopened envelope into his shredder without comment. A decade hadn't softened his stance on betrayal. Edmund Baker had parlayed his technical expertise into a legitimate security consulting firm, backed by Cal's investment. His surveillance systems now protected corporate clients across the country, though he still handled Cal's personal security needs personally. Edmund's new prototype is ready for testing, Mike said. It's completely undetectable. Lena Davis had risen to become the Harding Group's chief legal counsel. Her tactical knowledge of the law helped Cal navigate complex corporate takeovers. She maintained the same sharp edge that had served them during the revenge plot. Lena's team closed the Anderson merger, Mike reported, clean sweep, just like you wanted. Trevor Harding had passed away 5 years earlier, peacefully, in his sleep. Cal had ensured his father's final years were comfortable, buying him a small house near the coast where he could restore classic cars in peace. The Trevor Harding Technical Scholarship is doing well, Mike noted. Students this year are all going into mechanical trades. Cal's construction empire had grown beyond anyone's expectations. The Harding Group now handled major projects across the Southwest, known for ruthless efficiency and absolute reliability. Cal's reputation preceded him, a man who kept his promises, rewarded loyalty, and destroyed opposition. The city council approved our bid for the downtown revitalization project, his assistant added. Unanimous vote. Fear and respect had proven profitable companions. Cal's experience with betrayal had taught him to structure his empire on absolute control and verified trust. His inner circle remained small, but fiercely loyal, each member vetted through years of service. Franklin, Cal's lawyer brother, had attempted reconciliation 5 years ago, seeing an opportunity to profit from his brother's success. Cal's response had been brief and final. Family doesn't betray family. The Harding Group's corporate culture reflected its founder's philosophy. Loyalty was rewarded generously. Betrayal meant not just termination, but systematic destruction of future prospects. Former employees who violated trust found themselves unemployable in the industry. Thompson tried to sell project plans to Robertson Construction. Mike mentioned, "We handled it. Robertson's backing out of the Dallas market next week." Cal noted with satisfaction. Amazing what people will do to avoid our attention. Cal's personal life remained private and carefully controlled. He'd never remarried, though not for lack of opportunity. Business magazines regularly named him among Texas's most eligible bachelors, but the lessons of betrayal had left permanent marks. His new house, a fortified estate outside Houston, reflected his transformed personality, secure, imposing, and completely under his control. Edmund's security systems made it a technological fortress. The new perimeter sensors are online, Mike reported. Nothing moves within a mile without us knowing. Cal's revenge had evolved into something larger than mere personal vengeance. He built a legacy on its foundations, a business empire that operated on the principles he learned during that crucial summer. Trust must be earned, loyalty must be absolute, and betrayal must have consequences. Senator Williams called again about the highway contract. His assistant mentioned, "Tell him my terms haven't changed," Cal replied. "He either plays by our rules or finds another contractor." The power to destroy lives had become the power to build fortunes. Cal wielded both with the same cold precision that had marked his revenge. His employees understood that working for the Harding Group meant subscribing to its founder's code. Mike's security team maintained surveillance on potential threats, both personal and professional. They developed a reputation for catching problems before they developed. Roberts was sharing a bit of information. Mike said, "We got proof. Handle it." Cal instructed, "Make sure he understands why." The lesson would be as clear as it had been with Jenny, Miguel, and Erica. Cross Cal Harding and your life changes permanently. Lena's legal department had perfected the art of legitimate destruction. They operated within the law while ensuring targets had no chance of recovery. Roberts will be lucky to find work as a parking attendant, Lena promised later that day. Legal but thorough. Cal's empire rested on a foundation of fear, respect, and absolute control. The betrayed husband had become a corporate titan who could destroy lives with a phone call or build fortunes with a signature. The annual Industry Awards dinner provided a perfect illustration. Cal received the Lifetime Achievement Award for his contributions to Texas construction, but everyone in the room knew his real achievement: creating a business empire where loyalty was the only currency that mattered. Your success story inspires us all, the presenter gushed. Cal's acceptance speech was brief. Success comes from understanding people's true nature and acting accordingly. The message wasn't lost on his audience. They'd all heard stories of what happened to those who crossed Cal Harding. In quiet moments, Cal sometimes reflected on his transformation. The pain of betrayal had forged him into something harder, colder, more powerful. He'd taken the lessons of that summer and built an empire on them. His father's old advice about doing things right the first time had evolved into a corporate philosophy. Do it right, do it completely, and make sure everyone understands the consequences of betrayal. The annual company Christmas party demonstrated the duality of his leadership. Loyal employees received generous bonuses and genuine appreciation, but everyone understood the underlying message. Loyalty brought rewards, betrayal brought destruction. 10 years, Mike mused during a quiet moment. Did you ever think it would lead to this? The revenge taught me how the world really works, Cal replied. Everything since then has just been applying the lesson. The lesson continued to serve him well. The Harding Group's success proved that fear could be more profitable than friendship, control more valuable than trust. Jenny's latest attempt to rebuild her life had failed. A simple phone call from Cal's office had ensured that. Miguel's night shift at the clinic stretched endlessly ahead of him, his medical career a distant memory. Erica's retirement community remained her prison, her social isolation complete. But Cal had moved beyond mere revenge. He created something larger, more permanent. A business empire built on the principles he learned during his campaign of vengeance. The betrayed husband had become the corporate titan, the victim had become the victor, and the lesson remained clear. Betrayal carried consequences that lasted a lifetime. Cal Harding stood at his office window, surveying the city he was helping to build. The past was sealed away, but its lessons lived on in the empire he created. The serpent hadn't just shed its skin, it had grown into a dragon, and the world had learned to fear its bite. And there you have it, another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen, and I'll see you there.